What if I told you that silence could change your life? Yes, yes, silence. Hello, friends. Today we're going to dive into the wisdom of the great Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius and learn the 9 situations in which it's best to keep your mouth shut. Believe me, it will change the way you think forever. Stay until the end, because the last situation is a key moment that will turn your view of communication upside down. Let's go. Situation 1 is when you are angry. Imagine you're seething with anger, ready to explode and say everything you think. Wait, Marcus Aurelius said that anger is temporary insanity. And guess what? Modern neurobiology completely confirms these ancient words. At the moment of anger, your amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for emotions, literally takes control of the frontal cortex, which is responsible for rational thought. It's insane. Have you ever watched a boiling kettle? The steam has to find a way out, right? But there are 2 ways. Either let the steam escape in an uncontrollable explosion, or let it cool down naturally. And guess what? The best part is that just a few minutes of silence can steeply lower your body's stress hormone levels. Now hold on tight. Regularly practicing mindful silence in moments of anger significantly improves the functioning of the parts of the brain responsible for emotional control. But wait, there's more. Did you know that words spoken in anger activate the same areas of the brain as physical pain? Yes. When we vent our emotions, we literally cause ourselves emotional wounds that the brain perceives as physical injuries. Imagine that your words are sharp arrows. Once released, you can't catch them. Now, a powerful piece of advice from Marcus Aurelius himself. When you feel angry, imagine that you are standing on the shore of a stormy sea. The waves are your emotions. Instead of trying to stop them, which is impossible, just observe them. Count to 10 in complete silence. Psychologists confirm that even this short pause helps activate the frontal cortex and regain control of your emotions. Marcus Aurelius compared anger to an infection that is transmitted through words. When we are silent, we become society's immune system, preventing the spread of toxic emotions. And it's not just a pretty metaphor. Research shows that negative emotions are indeed contagious and can spread in social groups like a virus. Now let's talk about the practicalities. So how do you really apply this to your life? First, create a stop word for yourself, a secret trigger that will remind you to be quiet. It can be any word, for example, Aurelius, or silence. Second, install a meditation app on your phone and use it at the first sign of anger. Even a minute of mindful breathing can radically change your brain chemistry. Remember, silence in anger is not about suppressing your emotions, but about transforming them wisely. It's like a martial art. You use your opponent's energy, in this case, anger, not to destroy, but to grow. And every time you choose silence over an angry response, you are literally reprogramming the neural connections in your brain. Now think about how many conflicts and broken relationships could be avoided simply if people would just be silent sometimes. Most relationship conflicts start with words spoken in anger. Can you imagine what the world would be like if we all learned the art of silence? Last, but not least, silence in anger is not a weakness, but a true strength. As Marcus Aurelius said, the more power you have, the more self-control you need. The next time you feel anger building up, remember this. Pause, stop talking, and just watch how not only the situation changes, but yourself as well. When you're being provoked, when someone is purposely trying to get a rise out of you, what do? Marcus Aurelius would say that the best way to get revenge is not to be like the offender. And these are not just pretty words. Modern psychology fully confirms this. Studies show that reacting to provocation activates the same parts of the brain as physical pain. We literally suffer when we give in to provocation. When someone provokes you, they are waiting for you to react. It's like chess. Your silence is an unexpected move that confuses your opponent. And here's the interesting thing. Neuroscientists have found that when we remain calm before provocation, our brain produces serotonin, the hormone of happiness. You literally become happier when you don't react to provocation. Now hold on tight. Psychologists conducted a study and found that almost all provocations stop after the third attempt. Imagine, it only takes 3 times of silence to completely disarm the provocateur. It's like oxygen to a fire. Without it, the flame dies out. But you know what's really amazing? People who regularly practice silence in response to provocation are much less likely to suffer from stress and are significantly more successful in their careers. Why is this so? Because they conserve their energy instead of wasting it on pointless conflict. Marcus Aurelius compared provocations to poison arrows. If you don't let them penetrate your mind, they lose their power. Modern psychology confirms this. When we don't respond to provocation, we literally reprogram ourselves. Create a mental shield for yourself. Every time you are provoked, imagine that there is an invisible force field around you, and all negative words and actions just bounce off it. It sounds simple, but it works. This visualization drastically reduces emotional reactivity. Remember that someone who provokes is often projecting their own problems. It's like a crooked mirror. The mirror distorts, but reflects the inner world of the provocateur. Your silence can be a real mirror for them, showing their behavior. And here's the important thing. Silence in response to provocation is not a weakness, but a real strength. Studies show that people who are able to remain calm in provocative situations are perceived by others as stronger and more authoritative. The next time someone tries to provoke you, remember these words. Take a deep breath. Let the provocation pass you by, like the wind through the branches of a tree, and watch how not only the situation changes, but also your perception of what is happening. Last but not least, every time you choose silence over responding to provocation, you not only preserve your dignity, but you set a new standard of behavior for others. You become a living example of how to remain strong and calm in any situation. Situation 3. When you are not sure of the facts. Warning. This is critical in an age of fake news and information noise. Marcus Aurelius would be shocked at how easily people disseminate unverified information. Imagine, every minute more news is shared on social media. And you know what the worst part is? The vast majority of people share news without even reading it in full. It's crazy. But wait, it gets even more interesting. Scientists have discovered that false news spreads several times faster than true news. Why? Because they tend to be more sensationalized. Emotion makes information more clickable, and that's where the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius comes into play. When you're unsure of information, silence is the manifestation of wisdom. It's like in medicine. Do no harm is the first principle. And you know what's interesting? Neuroscientists have found that spreading unverified information activates the same parts of the brain as gambling. We literally become addicted to the sharing of breaking news. Imagine that every word you say is a seed that could germinate in today's digital world. In the world, one ill-considered message can cause a snowball effect. And here's a shocking statistic for you. One fake post on social media can reach thousands of people in a matter of hours. It's like a virus that spreads at the speed of light. Marcus Aurelius taught us to be careful with information like a sharp sword. People who pause before sharing information are much less likely to spread fakes. Just imagine how the information landscape would change if everyone followed this principle. Now let's talk about practice. How can we apply this wisdom to our modern world? First, adopt the three-source rule. Don't accept information as truth until you have at least 3 sources to back it up. Second, use the stop word technique. Every time you want to share something sensational, say the word verification to yourself. Even a small pause before reposting greatly reduces the likelihood of spreading misleading information. Isn't that a testament to the power of conscious silence? Remember this, in our world, you can't clean up information noise with silence. Being proactive is like being a filter in the flow of information. You know what's amazing? People who are careful to share information have much more credibility in the professional community. The next time you come across a sensational news story or shocking fact, remember this. Pause, check your sources, think about the implications. As the famous quote says, "Truth is the daughter of time, not authority." Last, your silence in moments of uncertainty is a contribution to the information hygiene of society. You become part of the solution, not the problem. And isn't that worth a few minutes of silence? Yes, this is the very moment Marcus Aurelius advised silence. Why? Because praise is an ego test. And you know what's interesting? Modern psychology fully confirms this ancient wisdom. Studies show that overreacting to praise can be a sign of hidden insecurity, but you can also turn the situation around. If you let your guard down, modern psychologists confirm that people who have learned to accept praise silently show much more stable self-esteem. When you remain silent in response to compliments, you give space for genuine gratitude. It's like a blank canvas. Silence allows the moment to be real. Studies show that modest silence in response to praise significantly increases your social status in the eyes of others. Now let's talk about the practice. The right way to be silent in response to praise. First, learn to simply smile and nod. Second, if you feel the need to say something, just say thank you. No, yes, I tried. Or, that wasn't easy, just thank you. This behavior is seen as a sign of true skill and confidence. It's like a great artist who lets their work speak for itself. No explanations, no excuses. Remember, true greatness needs no validation. You know what? Praise can be perceived the same way. The best response to it is to not depend on it. The next time you hear a compliment or praise for yourself, remember these words. Take a deep breath. Allow the praise to just be praise, without the need to amplify or downplay it. Just be in the moment. Last but not least, your silence in response to praise is not just modesty, but a show of inner strength. You're showing that your self-esteem is not dependent on other people's approval. Friends, the real superpower in our world of social acceptance comes in moments of triumph. Wow, you've accomplished a goal, completed a project, won a contest, and you're so excited to shout it out to the world. But wait, Marcus Aurelius taught, do great things without talking about them. And guess what? Modern psychology confirms that prematurely celebrating success can seriously reduce motivation for new accomplishments. The statistics are shocking. People who announce their successes early face envy and negative reactions from those around them. And here's what's even more interesting. Publicly announcing your goals significantly reduces the likelihood of achieving them. Why? Because our brains perceive talking about success as a partial substitute for success itself. Think of success as a ripe fruit. The less you touch it, the longer it stays fresh. Neuroscientists have discovered an amazing thing. When we keep quiet about our accomplishments, the same parts of the brain responsible for long-term planning are activated. People who are reticent about their victories are much more likely to reach new goals. It's like compound interest in investing. Small victories that you keep quiet about accumulate and lead to big success. Marcus Aurelius compared braggarts to a holy vessel. The more you talk about your accomplishments, the less they are appreciated. Premature celebration can lead to accomplishment syndrome, a condition where a person loses motivation to move forward. Instead of talking about your success, it's better to focus on the next steps. That energy should be channeled into new accomplishments. Studies show that people who quietly celebrate victories are much more effective at setting and achieving their next goals. It's like a quiet river. It makes no noise. Remember, the greatest accomplishments often happen in silence. As Marcus Aurelius said, "Let your deeds speak for you." And you know what's amazing? Social psychology research shows that silent success commands far more respect than loud victory shouts. Next time you achieve something significant, pause, savor the moment in silence. Let your success speak for itself. True greatness doesn't require fanfare. And here's something really impressive. People who practice quiet success are much less likely to suffer from professional burnout. Why? Because they don't waste energy on maintaining the image of a successful person, but instead focus on real accomplishments. Last but not least, silence in the moment of triumph. It's not just modesty, it's a strategic choice. Winners create space for even greater achievements. As Marcus Aurelius said, the best success is the one you don't have to shout about. Situation 6. Learn from other people's mistakes. When you notice someone else's mistake, you are tempted to say, "I told you so." Publicly pointing out mistakes drastically reduces a person's ability to learn from them. When we point out someone else's mistakes, something incredible happens. The human brain perceives it in a completely different way. Criticism is perceived as a physical threat. Now hold on tight. People who can recognize their own mistakes are many times more likely to correct them in the future. Just imagine, your silence can be far more effective than the most thoughtful criticism. Marcus Aurelius compared the learning process to the growth of a plant. The faster you pull the stem, the worse it gets. Just create the conditions for natural growth, and modern educational psychology confirms that the silent presence of a wise mentor is often more effective than direct instruction. When you are silent, you give the other person space for awareness and growth. It's like a gardener who doesn't stop the plants from growing. This approach greatly accelerates the learning process. Now let's talk about practice. What is the right way to keep silent when you see someone else's mistakes? First, learn to ask questions instead of pointing out mistakes. Second, give the person time to figure it out on their own. Studies show that self-found solutions are much better memorized. We were all beginners at some point. Psychologists say that the fear of making a mistake greatly reduces productivity. Imagine how much more effective a team could be where people aren't afraid to make mistakes. Your silence in the moment of someone else's mistake is an investment in future relationships. And it's not just pretty words. Research in organizational psychology shows that teams where it's common to give room for mistakes are far more innovative and creative. Next time you see someone make a mistake, pause. Think about what's more important, showing you're right or creating space for growth. As Marcus Aurelius said, the best way to correct others is to show them a better way by your example. Last but not least, your silence in moments of others' mistakes. This isn't just showing wisdom, it's creating a culture of psychological safety. In such a space, people learn faster and work more efficiently. Achieve more? And isn't that worth a few minutes of conscious silence? In the moment of making important decisions, stop. This is the moment to turn on silence mode to full power. Marcus Aurelius said, "Haste slowly," and modern neuroscience confirms it. Silence rewires our brains to make better decisions. At the moment of silence, the areas of the brain responsible for processing complex information are activated. In noise, these areas are half as effective. Imagine when you are making a decision in silence. Your brain is working at full speed. You know what's really surprising? People who pause before making a decision. It's like tuning a musical instrument. You can hear fake notes better in silence. When we are silent, our brain processes information at a deeper level, activating what's called the passive mode network of the brain, the areas responsible for integrating information and anticipating consequences. Imagine that your thoughts are sediment in a glass of water. You have to wait a little while for it to settle and realize that even a few minutes of conscious silence before making an important decision significantly improves the quality of your choices. Marcus Aurelius compared the decision-making process to the ripening of a fetus. You cannot speed up the natural process, and modern psychology confirms that attempts to force a decision multiply the probability of error. In silence, special neural connections are activated, and intuition. People who practice silent decision-making are noticeably more accurate at predicting the consequences of their actions. When you are silent when you make a decision, you give your brain time to process all aspects of the situation. It's like a powerful computer that needs silence for complex calculations. Decisions made in haste are much more likely to have negative consequences. The next time you are faced with the quality of your decision, remember, even a little quiet reflection can change your entire life. One last thing. Your silence before an important decision is not passivity, but rather your brain actively working at its optimal capacity. As Marcus Aurelius said, the deepest waters flow quietly. The situation is this. When you feel envious of someone who has achieved what you dream of, things boil up inside you. Marcus Aurelius called envy a poison to the soul. Envy activates the same parts of the brain as physical pain, and we literally suffer when we are envious. Studies show that the vast majority of negative comments on social media are motivated by envy. A person who experiences envy often faces chronic stress and depression. It's like a vicious cycle. The more we talk about our envy, the deeper we go into negative emotions. When you stay silent in moments of envy, something amazing happens. Your brain begins to rewire neural connections. Instead of fixating on the success of others, it begins to look for ways for your own growth. Practicing mindful silence in these moments greatly reduces the activity of the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for negative emotions. Just imagine how many toxic thoughts can be avoided through silence. Instead of discussing someone else's accomplishments, focus that energy on yourself. People who know how to turn envy into motivation are more likely to achieve their goals, especially if they know how to be quiet and reflective. This is just incredible. Marcus Aurelius compared envy to rust that eats away at the soul from the inside out. Modern psychology confirms this. When we talk about envy, its negative impact on the psyche only intensifies. Silence becomes the first step to healing. In silence, a real alchemy takes place. Your brain starts generating constructive solutions instead of toxic thoughts after a few minutes of conscious silence. When you're silent, your stress levels drop noticeably, and your ability to think strategically increases. Remember, every envious word is wasted energy. Statistics show that people who practice silence are much less likely to experience professional burnout and achieve their goals faster. Next time you feel envy, take a deep breath. Observe your thoughts, but don't let them speak. It's like meditation. The more you practice, the better you get. Become stronger, and your silence in moments of envy is not a suppression of the emotion, but a wise transformation of it. As Marcus Aurelius said, the best revenge is not to be like the person who causes you negative feelings. Here it is, the most powerful situation. Marcus Aurelius thought doubt was a natural part of life. But you know what most people do? They start talking about their doubts to everyone. Every time we talk out our doubts, we reinforce the neural connections responsible for uncertainty. Surprisingly, people who talk about their doubts all the time tend to get stuck in a state of uncertainty more often. What's more interesting is that those who keep their doubts to themselves and work on them in silence are much more likely to achieve their goals. It's like the law of conservation of energy. Either you spend it talking about your doubts, or you spend it on action. In the moment of silence, an amazing transformation takes place. Your brain switches from worry mode to solution mode, and in silence, the areas of the brain responsible for creative thinking and finding solutions are activated. Whenever you talk about problems instead of good things, psychologists have noticed that voicing doubts strongly increases anxiety levels, while silence and reflection, on the contrary, reduce it. Your silence in moments of doubt is a space to grow your inner confidence. A few minutes of quiet meditation greatly strengthens connections in the prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for confidence and decision-making. It's like building a foundation. The most important work happens beneath the surface in silence. People who practice silently overcoming doubt reach a state of flow in their work much more quickly and are less likely to suffer from imposter syndrome. Marcus Aurelius compared doubts to clouds. They can obscure the sun, but they cannot extinguish it. Silent acceptance of doubts is the first step to overcoming them. This is borne out by statistics. Most successful people regularly practice mindful silence. When doubts begin to attack, pause and attend to the matter at hand instead of discussing it. Activity combined with silence is much better at reducing doubt than talking about it. Remember, great accomplishments begin with overcoming doubt in silence. And you know what the most amazing thing is? Your silent overcoming of doubt can inspire others more than 1,000 motivational speeches. One last thing. Don't be afraid of silence in moments of doubt. As Marcus Aurelius said, diamonds grow in silence, not weeds. Modern research confirms that silence is more effective than constantly discussing your fears and doubts. Now that was powerful. Now you know there are situations where silence is truly gold. But remember, silence is not just the absence of words, it is the manifestation of wisdom. Start practicing it today. If you found this video useful, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And in the comments write, in what situations you find it most difficult to keep silent. See you in the next video.